Benjamin, popularly known as Killer Boy to the Lagos State Police Command, is accused of murdering his 21-year-old partner.
The moment the apartment door crashed open, the sound reverberated throughout the stillness. But for Cordelia Oion, the sound was a deafening prelude to her worst nightmare. She stood frozen in shock, her eyes locked onto the horrific scene before her. In the center of the room, Augusta's body lay lifeless, surrounded by the unmistakable pool of crimson blood. The air was thick with the smell of death, a pungent reminder that the life of her beloved daughter had been violently taken. Outside the apartment, the gleaming Mercedes-Benz C300, the extravagant birthday gift given to Augusta just months earlier, sat parked, its luxurious sheen now a haunting symbol of a life cut short. Cordelia couldn't comprehend the sight. The same daughter who had once been full of dreams, promise, and a future she'd worked so hard to build was now lying motionless in front of her. Her mind raced and the pain hit her all at once. What could have led to this? And how had things gone so terribly wrong? Augusta's life, from the outside, seemed like a fairy tale. She had everything anyone could desire. A luxury apartment, an adoring boyfriend, and a life filled with vacations to exotic places, designer handbags, and the finest things money could buy. But beneath all the Instagram-worthy moments, there was a much darker story unfolding. A story of control, manipulation, and ultimately, murder. This is the story of Augusta Oion, a young woman who, despite all the outward appearances of success and happiness, was living a nightmare she couldn't escape. And at the heart of her tragic tale was Benjamin Best, the man who once claimed to love her but would soon become her executioner. Augusta was born on February 3, 2002 in Lagos, Nigeria, a vibrant and fast-paced city where dreams collide with harsh realities every day. From a young age, Augusta exhibited a natural charm and an insatiable drive. By 21, she had already become a rising star on Instagram, with over 120,000 followers who admired her beauty, style, and her growing influence in the fashion scene. But Augusta wasn't just a pretty face on social media. She was a woman with ambition, balancing her studies at Lead City University while carving out a space for herself in one of the most competitive industries in Nigeria. Her relationship with her mother, Cordelia, was extraordinary. They weren't just mother and daughter, they were best friends. Augusta would frequently call Cordelia for advice on everything, from picking out outfits for special events to more personal matters like relationship dilemmas. Their bond was unbreakable. And it was Cordelia, more than anyone, who understood the depth of Augusta's dreams and her drive to make a name for herself in the fashion world. Together, they envisioned a future where Augusta would not only be a household name in Nigeria, but across West Africa. Then came Benjamin Best. At 26, Benjamin was a successful blockchain developer and a cryptocurrency enthusiast who had already gained considerable attention in the digital world. His Instagram handle, Killboy, had amassed a massive following, and his persona exuded confidence, success, and charm. When Benjamin and Augusta first met, it seemed like fate had brought them together. Their chemistry was undeniable, and what followed appeared to be a perfect romance. At least that's how it looked to their followers. Benjamin didn't just date Augusta, he adored her. From the very start, he lavished her with expensive gifts, taking her on private jets to breathtaking destinations across Africa. They dined in the most luxurious restaurants, with Benjamin always ordering the most expensive items on the menu just to see Augusta smile. He showered her with designer bags, clothing, and jewelry, each item more extravagant than the last. Their relationship was the definition of a modern fairy tale. Social media, of course, was the perfect platform to showcase their love. Every Instagram post was a picture-perfect moment, reinforcing the idea of the ultimate couple that others envied. But behind all the glamorous images, a darker reality was taking shape. The first signs of trouble came gradually, hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly flawless relationship. Benjamin began to display signs of jealousy, questioning Augusta's interactions with other men, especially her male followers on Instagram. "Who's this guy commenting on your photos?" he would ask, his voice tinged with a possessiveness that made Augusta uneasy. What started as playful jealousy soon escalated into something much more controlling. Benjamin began monitoring Augusta's every move, questioning her about where she was, who she was with, and even demanding to know what she was doing at all times. Augusta, however, brushed it off at first. She convinced herself that it was a sign of Benjamin's love and devotion. After all, he was spending so much money on her, giving her everything she could ever want. It seemed harmless at first, and she convinced herself that his intense interest in her well-being was a sign of just how much he cared. But as time passed, the behavior became more troubling. Benjamin's jealousy transformed into obsessive control. He would text her multiple times a day, demanding constant updates on where she was and who she was with. "I need to know you're safe," he would text, followed by demands for pictures to prove her whereabouts. What once seemed like affection now began to feel more like surveillance. And soon, Augusta found herself walking on eggshells, constantly second-guessing her actions, words, and even the outfits she wore. The once carefree relationship now felt like a carefully constructed prison. Every gift, every luxury became a chain binding her to him. The lavish presents that Benjamin showered on Augusta, handbags, jewelry, clothing, were not just tokens of affection. They were instruments of control, keeping her tethered to him while convincing her that this was all part of a loving, devoted relationship. As Benjamin's emotional abuse intensified, Augusta began isolating herself from her friends and family. She would cancel plans with friends at the last minute, claiming that Benjamin had surprised her with another lavish date. She stopped responding to group chats as frequently, her replies becoming shorter and more distracted. She became consumed with checking her phone for messages from Benjamin, constantly worried about how he would react to the slightest misstep. To the outside world, Augusta's life seemed perfect. She continued to post glamorous photos on social media, showing off her expensive gifts and the exotic vacations she and Benjamin took. But behind the carefully curated posts, Augusta was struggling. She was no longer the carefree, ambitious young woman who had dreamed of building her fashion empire. She was trapped in a controlling relationship that, on the surface, seemed perfect but was suffocating her from within. Then in July 2023, the relationship took a terrifying turn. After an intense argument, Augusta reached out to her mother. Her voice was shaky, filled with genuine fear. "Mama, we had a fight," she said. "Benjamin and I don't know what to do." But before Cordelia could offer any words of comfort, the line went dead. For the next 48 hours, Cordelia tried everything to reach Augusta. Her calls went unanswered. Her texts were left unread. The silence stretched on like a gaping void, and Cordelia's heart filled with dread. Something was terribly wrong. By July 13th, Cordelia's worst fears had been realized. She and Augusta's roommate, Peace, went to Benjamin's apartment hoping to find Augusta safe. When they arrived, the Mercedes-Benz C300, the birthday gift Benjamin had given Augusta, was parked in its usual spot. But when they knocked on the door, there was no answer. The apartment was eerily silent, and something felt deeply wrong. After a frantic call to the police, officers arrived within minutes. The door was opened with a master key, and inside, the chilling truth was revealed. Augusta's body was discovered, brutally murdered. The scene was one of unspeakable violence, with signs of a struggle throughout the apartment. Overturned furniture and blood spatter patterns painted a vivid and terrifying picture of Augusta's final moments. The police soon found a handwritten note on the coffee table, which would later become a critical piece of evidence in the case against Benjamin. The discovery sent shockwaves through Nigeria and beyond. The public was in disbelief. The same social media platforms that had once celebrated Augusta's life and relationship now mourned her tragic death. The hashtag number sign Justice for Augusta quickly gained traction, with thousands of people demanding answers. Benjamin Best, however, had already disappeared. Instead of turning himself in or showing any remorse, he did the unthinkable. He confessed to the crime on Instagram. In a series of posts, Benjamin described the murder in chilling detail, attempting to paint himself as the victim of a tragic mistake. "I got into an argument with my girlfriend," he wrote, "and I mistakenly stabbed her." The phrase "mistakenly stabbed her" was a lie that would haunt anyone who read it. You don't mistakenly stab someone. You don't mutilate the body of the person you claim to love. Yet, Benjamin continued to post, offering excuses and pleading for sympathy. His manipulative confession turned the entire country's attention onto him, but also painted him as the villain he truly was. As the nation mourned, Benjamin took advantage of his cryptocurrency wealth to disappear. He created a new identity and fled, but authorities weren't far behind. Through international cooperation, Benjamin was tracked down to Sierra Leone, but just when it seemed like justice was within reach, he escaped from a detention facility, continuing his life on the run. For the next 2 years, Benjamin evaded capture using stolen identities, shady financial transactions, and underground networks to stay hidden. It wasn't until January 2025 that Benjamin's escape came to an end. Authorities working with international law enforcement tracked him down to Qatar, where he had been living under a new identity. The once confident man who had flaunted his wealth on Instagram was now facing the consequences of his actions. Finally, in April 2025, Benjamin was brought back to Nigeria to stand trial. The evidence against him was overwhelming. His Instagram confession, the forensic evidence, and witness testimony painted a clear picture of his guilt. In May 2025, after months of legal proceedings, Benjamin was found guilty of first-degree murder, mutilation of a corpse, and destruction of evidence. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Augusta's family, the victory was bittersweet. The relief that justice had been served was tempered by the painful realization that Augusta would never be coming back. Her dreams, her ambitions, her future, everything she had worked for was stolen from her. But Augusta's legacy lived on. Her story sparked a nationwide conversation about domestic violence, control disguised as love, and the dangers of relationships that seemed too perfect to be true. Social media's role in perpetuating unhealthy ideals was laid bare, and Augusta's mother, Cordelia, became an advocate for young women, urging them to trust their instincts and recognize the signs of abuse before it was too late. Augusta's death became a catalyst for change, transforming how Nigeria approached domestic violence and the way social media platforms monitored content. The justice system took a closer look at how relationships and manipulation were depicted online, and the public's awareness grew. Augusta's story saved lives, and her legacy continues to speak to the importance of recognizing unhealthy patterns before they spiral out of control. If you're in a relationship where you feel trapped, isolated, or controlled, know that there is always help. Speak up, reach out, and trust your instincts. Your voice could save a life. Augusta Oion should be here today, living her dreams and building the future she deserved. But her story lives on as a powerful reminder that love should never come at the cost of your freedom.